Welcome to the Broadway.com show, filmed at the Broadway.com studios in the heart of Times Square, NYC. I'm Paul Wontorek.
And I'm Imogen Lloyd-Webber. Today we're chatting with Miss Saigon standout Jon Jon Briones, meeting Broadway's newest Go-to-Hell kitty, celebrating Avenue Q's anniversary, and more.
And later, we'll sit down with three-time Tony nominee Celia Keenan-Bolger, now starring in the intriguing new off-Broadway play, A Parallelogram.
But first, let's get started with the news. What's the buzz, Paul Wontorek?
This is a serious A-list of queen bees. The Mean Girls musical has found its plastics. Erica Henningsen will play the role of Katie Heron, made famous in the 2004 film by Lindsay Lohan. Taylor Louderman, currently starring in Broadway's Kinky Boots, will take on the role of Regina George. Other stars slated for the Casey Nicholaw helm production include Kyle Selig as dreamy Erin Samuels, Ashley Park as Gretchen Wieners, Kate Rockwell as Karen Smith, and Carrie Butler as Miss Norbury, who Mean Girls creator Tina Fey played in the film. The new stage musical adaptation of the movie will play out of town at Washington, D.C.'s National Theater from October 31st to December 3rd. We think a Broadway production would be so fetch.
All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. 2 productions of As You Like It are heading our way. Ellen Burstyn, Hannah Cabell, Andre de Shields and the company of the recent Bay Street Theatre production of Shakespeare's comedy will reprise their performances off-Broadway. Directed by John Doyle, Stephen Schwartz has created an original jazz-era-inspired score for the production. Cast members play the instruments. Sounds positively wicked. Performances will begin on September the 13th at Classic Stage Company. Meanwhile, Rebecca Naomi Jones and Joelle Perez have been tapped for the upcoming public works mounting of As You Like It, featuring music and lyrics by Shayna Taub and an adaptation by Taub and Laura Woolry. The free production, kicking off the Public Theatre's 2017-2018 season, will run 5 nights from September the 1st at Central Park's Della Court Theatre.
Hugh Pinero, a long-running Broadway Phantom in the Phantom of the Opera, will revisit his dark side as the newest Sweeney in the hit off-Broadway revival of Sweeney Todd. Pinero will take on the iconic role of the Demon Barber of Fleet Street on August 29th, opposite former Lestat co-star Carolee Carmello as Mrs. Lovett. Norm Lewis, another former Phantom playing Sweeney currently, will leave the production August 13th. In other casting news, Tony nominee Daniel Breaker will move from the Chicago production of Hamilton to Broadway, taking on the role of Aaron Burr on August 29th. Also on the Hamilton tip, Memphis Tony nominee Montego Glover will be joining the show's Chicago company as Angelica Schuyler in early September.
Hugh Pinero played the Phantom more than 2,000 times.
You know who he didn't play 2,000 times on Broadway? Julian Craster.
Who the heck is Julian Craster?
Look it up.
Alright then. Blair Brown, who won a Tony Award back in 2000 for Copenhagen, is set to return to Broadway in Beau Willimon's Washington, D.C. set drama, The Parisian Woman. Brown will play the role of Jeanette Simpson, the soon-to-be chairwoman of the Federal Reserve, nominated by the President. Headlined by the previously announced Uma Thurman, who has been tapped to appear as a charming socialite, with Josh Lucas as her husband, the show will be helmed by Pam McKinnon. Opening night is scheduled for November the 30th at a theatre to be announced. Willimon created House of Cards, and since we finished binge-watching that, The Parisian Woman can't land on the Great White Way soon enough for us.
Mark Cohen and Angel together at last. Original Rent star Anthony Rapp broke some big gays in space news at Comic-Con this week when he revealed another Rent vet, Wilson Cruz, will play my partner, my man love, on the upcoming Star Trek Discovery series on CBS in 2018. Rapp will star as Lieutenant Stamets on the upcoming show, which is set prior to the original Star Trek, opposite Cruz as Dr. Hugh Culber. This is huge news for sci-fi fans and the first time an openly gay character has appeared as a main cast member on any Star Trek series in 51 years. Original Out Star Trek star and Broadway veteran George Takei tweeted his support of the proud news. How far we've come, he said. Indeed.
Is it too much to hope that maybe these Broadway vets will inspire a musical episode of Star Trek?
Not at all, Imogen. In fact, Rapp later tweeted that he and Cruz would be performing I'll Cover You during a very tense meteor shower late in the season.
Really? Fantastic?
I'm sorry, that's fake news. Star Trek is sadly still only for Trekkies, not Rentheads.
I don't know. We've got a starry casting roundup. Grammy winner Brandy will return to the Broadway production of Chicago, where she made her debut in 2015 as Roxy Hart for just 17 performances from August 17th through the 31st. Meanwhile, Carmen Cusack will reprise her Tony-nominated role as Alice Murphy in Bright Star when the Steve Martin, Edie Brickell musical plays Central Theatre Group's Amundsen Theatre in Los Angeles from October 11th through November the 19th. And finally, Nikki Blonsky, who received a Golden Globe nomination for playing Tracy Turnblad in the film version of Hairspray, will join the cast of Lisa Lampanelli's play Stuffed at the West Side Theatre, with performances starting October the 5th. After the break, we'll get a VIP tour backstage at Phantom with Monsieur Andre himself, Laird Mackintosh, and much more.
Welcome to Marvin's Room, a play about living and dying, but mostly living. Starring Lily Taylor, Celia Weston, and me, Janine Garofalo. It's kind of a classic, Marvin's Room, because sometimes you just have to laugh.
I'm Bench Bassick.
I'm Justin Paul.
And you're watching the Broadway.com show.
Welcome back. The world of the Phantom of the Opera is one filled with thrills, chills, and much stage magic. Longtime cast member Laird Mackintosh recently took us on a VIP behind-the-scenes tour at the Majestic Theater to unmask 5 secrets of the well-loved show.
Hey everybody, this is Laird Mackintosh from the Broadway production of Phantom of the Opera, and I'm about to show you 5 secrets that you don't know about Phantom. All right everybody, we're on stage at the Majestic Theater with the iconic chandelier. And what you may not know about this is that when the show opened in London in 1986, the chandelier was named Ruthie after Hal Prince's assistant, Ruth Mitchell. And when our show opened on Broadway in 1988, they christened the chandelier Ruthie 2. And when you're up here on stage, you can see on the back of the chandelier, there's a plaque. All right, now we're almost at the back of the stage, and we have one of the coolest effects in the show. At the end of the show, when Raoul, who's played right now by Rodney Ingram, jumps off the top of the bridge and into the lake, this is what he jumps into. So then when Raoul makes his jump, what nobody gets to see is this giant crash pad that he lands on, and it's about 4 feet underneath the level of the stage. As you can see that when Raoul lands on this, it's a pretty springy landing. And then Oren, on our crew right here, puts his hand out, grabs a hold of Raoul, and he does a roll and heads off onto the stage. Okay, this is the air curtain that keeps the rolling fog up on the stage in the iconic boat scenes in Phantom. You can't see it, but it's high-powered jets of air, runs right across from one end of the stage to the other, and blows a screen of air straight up, and that keeps the smoke from going over the lip. Okay, now I'm holding the mask that I wear when I cover the role of the Phantom. And getting this mask was obviously a really cool experience for me. The masks are all come out of a mold and then are specifically tailored to fit the faces of the individual actors. And if you look on the inside of the mask, you can see it's lined with kid leather, and there's my initials on the inside. And this is some of my makeup that's worn off, but on the outside, it's pristine, and the masks are periodically repainted to keep them looking absolutely perfect like this. We are now underneath the stage in the crossover from stage right to stage left. And one of our longtime company members, George Lee Andrews, put together this collection of photos of every person who has ever performed here in Phantom, starting off at the very beginning. This is the original cast of Phantom, and here's some guy, Michael Crawford, I don't know, I've never heard of him before, but anyway. And as you can see, we've had quite a few people in our cast over the years because the cast members go all across here, both sides of the wall. All right, I hope you had fun. I know I did. Come join us at the Phantom of the Opera on Broadway at the Majestic Theater.
Jon Jon Briones made a dazzling Broadway debut last season, playing the engineer in the acclaimed new Miss Saigon. We caught up with the charming star in his dressing room at the Broadway Theater to find out about his humble beginnings and current fantastic life. Briones comes to Broadway via the West End, where his Saigon performance earned him an Olivier Award nomination. Still, he says Broadway is special.
It's like playing in the major leagues. You know, going to Broadway is everyone's dream. I mean, actors in the Philippines, actors in London, actors everywhere. They want to be on Broadway. It is the big leagues.
Although he now occupies a star dressing room on Broadway, Briones' childhood was anything but plush.
I grew up, born and raised in the Philippines, Quezon City, Philippines, in one of the many slums in Manila. Very poor family, of course, but I got introduced to the arts, and that saved me.
When he was just 9, Briones' mother surprised him with a visit to church.
My mom said, "Go get dressed, we're going to church." I said, weekday. All right. And we met a priest, and I sang to him. Finally, he turned to my mom and said, you may leave him now. And I looked turned to my mom, and I didn't notice that my mom had a small bag for me, and she started crying and said, we have to do this.
Briones left his family to stay at the Catholic school, earning his keep by singing at Mass. Acting became a passion, although ironically, Broadway's future engineer also studied engineering.
I was doing engineering, but I was doing gigs, so I was slowly failing engineering, and I did 5 years already. I was about to graduate, but I was doing theater, and Cameron Mackintosh came to the Philippines to cast Miss Saigon, and I got in.
Briones starred in the original London production of Miss Saigon as a teen and has now had a long history with the show. For the Filipino star, getting to play the engineer on Broadway is the ultimate.
You know, as an actor, you dream for these roles. And I truly believe this is one of the best roles out there for any actor. It's amazing, truly amazing.
Although he's always looking forward, Briones can't help but be stunned by his incredible journey to Broadway.
I'm thankful every day because I know where I came from, and I can't wait to find out where I'm still going, even at this age, because I feel like I've been given a new life and a new chance.
For 21 years, the revival of Chicago has been a launching pad for hundreds of stars-to-be that dream of a life performing on Broadway. This week we're shining the spotlight on one, Jessica Ernest, currently making her Broadway debut as Go to Hell Kitty in the smashing musical hit.
I'm Jessica Ernest and I play Go to Hell Kitty in Chicago on Broadway. My dream of dancing probably started when I started ballet class. I was 5, I think, at the community rec department had a ballet class, so I started taking ballet class, and then I obviously got too tall to be a ballerina. I'm 5'11", so my passions extended into jazz and musical theater dance and tap, and I found so many other ways to express myself. I try to get there about like an hour and a half before curtain just to get my makeup done and not feel rushed about getting my lashes on straight and pin curling my hair, because I wear a beautiful wig in the show, and making sure that my muscles are loose and able to do all of the choreography throughout the night. I do some active stretching, mostly for my legs, my hamstrings, to not allow injury, because that's what we don't want, even though we have 2 incredible swings backstage that are able to do anything at a moment's notice. The choreography doesn't look super challenging, but it's very intricate and requires a lot of muscles that you don't really know you have until you start doing all the Fosse choreography. I love dancing the Fosse choreography. I am like tall and gangly, so I don't always look the most sexy, I guess, but there's something about the way that he moves and the way that he choreographs a piece. Maintaining the look of the show is tough. It's very important to it. So you have to get to the gym and you have to eat the right things and make sure that you've eaten not too close to the show, because then maybe you'll be a little bloated or something won't go quite right. But more important than that, it's also like the mental ability to keep going night after night. At the end of every show, I'm super thankful. I'm gonna get emotional, just like knowing that I'm on Broadway and how exciting that is. And when you get to my age, you don't really think that it's possible anymore. And it is, it really is. It's just one person to believe in you and one show to give you your chance.
The original Tony-winning production of Avenue Q opened 14 years ago this week on Broadway, so we felt it was high time to head over to New World Stages, where the show has been running for 8 years, to meet the latest people in the neighborhood.
Well, 8 shows a week. Doing my thing. I live on Avenue Q with my roommate Nikki, and I'm an investment banker, living that 20 and 30-something life.
With a hilarious Tony-winning score and book by EGOTer and Frozen music man Robert Lopez, Jeff Marks, and Jeff Whitty, Avenue Q still keeps audiences roaring with laughter 8 times a week.
I started in July of 2007 with the first national tour. I did that for 2 years, and then I became the final cast on Broadway and opened it here in New World Stages. And here we are, running longer than we had run on Broadway, and we are approaching 14 years, 10 of which I've been associated with the show. So it's kind of amazing. This literally is my neighborhood.
I saw the show when I was 14 with my parents, who had no idea what they were taking me to, but I was adamant that I needed to see it. and fell like in love.
In college, singing along with the cast recording in my car, usually, driving back and forth to campus, doing all the voices, all the female voices, all the male voices, everything. My female voices for Q were really experimental at the time. With Lucy, I just did a very low, sultry voice. I can make you feel special.
14 years later, to see a show like Avenue Q still being relevant and funny and with very little in terms of being updated, the show still resonates with audiences, which is thrilling.
It's a universal story. I mean, there's always that point in life where you're trying to figure out who you are right after college, and you're sort of experiencing like your first real heartbreak and your first real job and your survival job and what you're actually trying to pursue, and of course your first real bills and paying rent.
We have the gift of having such a wonderful script and a wonderful score and a wonderful story to tell. It's hard to not sell something so amazing. They kind of made our job a little bit easier. We do have talent as well, but a lot of it is just this amazing story that continues to be resounding and relevant even 14 years later.
Happy birthday, Avenue Q.
Happy birthday, Avenue Q!
When we return, Broadway favorite Celia Keenan-Bolger on her role in the dark comedy A Parallelogram.
Wipe away the mask of makeup, just to talk, not to spur, man to man, queen to queen on a par, standing face to
Three-time Tony nominee Celia Keenan-Bolger is back on the boards in Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Bruce Norris's A Parallelogram at Second Stage. In the play, Keenan-Bolger plays B, a woman asking questions of her future self and getting answers. I sat down with the actress to find out more.
Hi, Beth.
Hi, Celia. How you doing?
I'm so good.
Okay, I saw this play and I had my mind blown. This is a mind pretzel.
It is, and I feel like it's one of those shows where people are like, what's it about? I'm like, it's about a lot of things.
It's about a lot of things. It is about a lot of things. So let's just start at the beginning. When you first read the script, what was attracting you to this part?
I mean, I think when I first read the play, I was like, whew, that's dark and bleak and doesn't necessarily reflect my own personal worldview. And I thought that that was sort of interesting. It's certainly a character I haven't really gotten to play before. I'm a huge fan of Bruce Norris's. In addition to that, it was really funny. It seemed very sort of technically and emotionally rigorous in a way that was interesting to me. So I'm having a very, very good time working on it.
What's really happening for people who don't know is that you are having contact and information from your future self.
Correct. And getting to sort of jump through time and replay sequences of events to see if I can make a change in the outcome.
And the title seems like it's about geometry.
I know. It's not really.
It's not. It's more about parallel universes and how things can kind of be happening at the same time.
Yes.
Perhaps. We don't know. We don't know.
That's exactly right.
But there is a technology in it that's certainly not in our town. There are no batteries in our town that I remember.
No, me neither. Yeah, there's like a little remote that can flip through time. And I think it's so interesting because I feel like it's so hard to write a play in general. And Bruce has created this sort of alternate reality, and not just in the sort of rewind, but he's created a sort of separate world, which I think is really, really hard to do. And I think he gives the audience the option to sort of follow which direction they believe this character wants to go.
Right, it's like a thought experiment. It's like if you said, oh, well, I live in the city, but what if I lived in the suburbs? And then you sort of imagine that, and then you can come back to your real life. That's kind of how I was looking at it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So in doing this, have you thought, I mean, it's so deep. I'm not trying to scare people, but it's a deep play.
It is.
In doing this, have you started to think about what you would tell your younger self or what you'd want to know from your future self?
It's interesting. I feel like the main thing I've taken away is that I would not want to know the future. Even if it was great, that there is something about that information that screws you up and that makes you feel disappointed and like that wasn't what I expected. And I suppose this sounds so cheesy, but that a really good thing about life is that you don't know what's going to happen, and that a big part of navigating, you know, the world is sort of taking what comes at you and trying to make the best of it. And I think having the information ahead of time is like a real mind. Can I say that? No.
You can say whatever you want,
Okay,
Celia
thanks.
Keenan-Bolger.
Yeah.
But there's another part of this play where you are tapping into anger in this piece in a way I haven't, I think, seen before.
It's so funny. Somebody was asking me before this came around, they were like, what's like the next thing you want to do? And I was like, I want to play somebody mean or bad or like somebody who's not very likable.
Like that's on your bucket list?
Yes.
Mean person.
Totally, because I feel like I never really get those opportunities. And this, I don't know that she's a mean person, but she's definitely not someone who is concerned with being liked. And I think is grappling with some very, very big life issues that are frustrating and, you know, bring forth some bigger emotions than what I usually get to do. So that's been very, very enjoyable.
Was it easy for you to own that on stage?
Mm-hmm. I feel like, I don't know. Yeah, it was. I would say if anything, there was a time when they were like, okay, we gotta like dial it back a little bit because we need to invest in this character, and if all she's doing is sort of railing and, you know, frustrated and pissed off all the time, it's hard to sort of go on the journey with her. So yeah, I think it's always so nice to get to do something different than what you've done, and especially when the writing is this good. It just sort of supports you, and you don't have to do as much as maybe I was doing when we started.
Did it cause any existential crises for you or your castmates?
It's funny. I feel like everybody in the cast sort of falls on the same side of like, we believe the world is good and that people are ultimately good and trying to help one another. And Bruce is always just like, yeah, keep telling yourselves that. Like, okay. So I think in a good way, I will say this is the hardest. I think this is one of the hardest processes I've ever experienced, just in terms of the language, like getting all of those words in my head, and that because it is
it's a very smart play, and the dialogue is very smart, and there's a naturalism to it where you're interrupting yourself while you're speaking.
Exactly, and that it sounds basically like we're all kind of improvising and just like talking off the cuff, when in fact it's like very, very specifically written. And to get that, and to sort of get Bruce like the music of his dialogue.
And you're repeating it.
Yeah.
So if you make a mistake, you might have to repeat that mistake.
The other day on stage, there was like something like fell onto the ground in a sequence that we repeat. And Steven picked it up, and I was like, I wonder if he's going to be balls enough to pick it up the second time. And he was. I was like, oh yeah, he's a real pro. He's a real pro.
It's really fun. I'm going to ask you my ridiculous question. Are you ready?
Yes, please.
Have you put your head in the birdcage yet? There's a birdcage on stage.
There is. I've never done it.
I mean, I think you should be inspired by the poster art.
I agree. Also, can we check out this person's hair, which used to look like my haircut, and now?
Yes, you've moved on.
Yeah, yes.
So you have some goals.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, tonight, just for like a little warm up.
Do it so that you have to rewind and you have to do it over and over again.
For Beth, into the birdcage, out of the birdcage, into the birdcage. Great.
Lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, that's right.
It is a deep play.
And really funny.
It is really funny, and I love that. So thank you for coming in.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure.
And go see, everyone has to go see a parallelogram.
Yeah, go see a parallelogram.
Go have your mind blown.
Yeah. We'll be right back with a joyful peek at the off-Broadway concert staging of Really Rosie.
Welcome to Marvin's Room, a play about living and dying, but mostly living. Starring Lily Taylor, Celia Weston, and me, Janine Garofalo. It's kind of a classic, Marvin's Room, because sometimes you just have to laugh.
Hi, I'm Ingrid Michelson, and you are watching the Broadway.com show.
Thanks for watching the Broadway.com show.
We leave you with a cast of Really Rosie, led by Taylor Caldwell, in rehearsal for their run from August 2nd through 5th at City Centre.
See you next week.